So in this video, I'm going to briefly go over the syllabus and then briefly show a little bit of Blackboard. If you went to lab the first week of classes, you don't really need to watch this video. There's no new information here. It's just for students who, for one reason or another, weren't able to make it to lab this week. So basically, this is what we would have done, but I'm just going to go over the syllabus and show Blackboard briefly. So there are a few things you need for lab, and these can all be purchased in Chemistry B44, which is the basement of this chemistry building. There's the lab coat, splash-resistant goggles, you can't wear safety glasses, nitrile gloves, these are like the thick dishwasher gloves, and the lab manual. And you're going to need all of this stuff for experiment 2 or 3. We would suggest you get it for experiment 2. For experiment 1, if you want to borrow goggles, you can. If you want to get this stuff, you are going to need this stuff. But this is basically, you can get this all in Chemistry B44. Note that Chemistry B44 has the bank hours, 9 to 4 or something like that on Monday through Friday. It's not going to have hours on the weekends or late at night like the mall or something like this. So just be aware of that and plan accordingly. And again, you can borrow goggles for experiments 1 and 2 if you need to. You're going to need a scientific calculator, and then the dress code is for your own safety to put a layer between you and the chemicals you're using, which is completely covered legs and feet. So no open-toed shoes, and make sure you have your hair tied back as well if you have longer hair. So safety is a top priority. There is a laboratory safety consent form that is available on Blackboard. It's a 10-ish page document followed by your signature, and basically you want to read through that document and sign that before you come to the first lab. And again, that is available on Blackboard under labs. You will find that. Lab cleanliness grade. So the lab's cleanliness grade is graded as a course. So when you use chemicals, if you spill something, wipe it up. All right. In the first experiment, we're going to be using salt. That white powder is obviously salt the first day. However, there's other white powders we use in the lab that aren't salt and that are more dangerous. So if you spill something, you do need to clean it up. If you use a chemical, you need to put the cap back on the chemical. So these are just some basic safety things, and kind of the lab environment keeps everybody safe by having a clean lab. So we do grade this as an entire course, and points can potentially be taken off everyone's lab if the lab isn't left clean. Attendance, lab attendance is mandatory. If you miss a lab, you do need to make it up. You can make it up at another lab that week. So if you miss a lab on a Tuesday, you can make it up on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. If you can't make it up that week because you're quarantined or something like this, hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, basically you can make it up during the scheduled makeup times. The first one of those is during the week of fall break, not on the days where you're actually on break, but on the other days of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There are makeups. We'll talk more about that as that comes closer. And the makeup policy is clearly spelled out on Blackboard. So if you need a makeup lab, please do read that makeup policy. It is mandatory that you make up labs, even if you're sick. But if you are sick, please stay home, especially during this time. So some other lab policies: no food or drink in the lab. If the fire alarm goes off, please meet in the courtyard between chemistry and biology, the grassy courtyard, and we'll let you know what to do from there. Chemicals in the hoods are there for a reason. So if we put some chemicals in the hoods, bring a container, get the chemicals you need, and bring it back to your station. This is because we don't want large amounts of chemicals out in the lab, because if they get spilled, it could cause problems. Put the chemicals back from the bench they are taken from. So every bench will have chemicals available. If they all end up on the back bench, then it just causes a traffic jam as everybody tries to move to the back bench to get them, and some people can't find them and this kind of stuff. Dispose of the chemicals in the correct place. Sometimes you can pour them down the sink if we're just using salt, but other times we would need to use something like a waste container. And if the TA lets you know that you need to use a waste container, please go ahead and do that. And of course, that's in the lab manual as well. Gloves should only be worn in the lab, all right? And if you're going to leave the room, please take your gloves off. You don't want to get something on your gloves and then carry that out into the hall and put it on the doorknobs where people who aren't wearing gloves are walking by. The other thing is, one of the most common chemical exposure accidents that we have in these courses is someone spills something, like a concentrated acid or base on their gloves. They're like, I'm wearing gloves, so I don't have to worry about this. However, they then get an itch on their face. They touch their face with the contaminated gloves, and now they have chemicals on their face. This is a big problem. So if you get something on your gloves, treat it like you got something on your hands and wash it off immediately. Do not leave the lab without letting someone know, so that we just kind of have a general idea of where you are. It's not, we're going to tell you can't go to the bathroom, but if you're going to go to the bathroom, let somebody know. That way if the fire alarm goes off, we know you're at the bathroom, and then we'll meet you outside. If something happens, please do let us know. You're not going to get in trouble if you knock something over, or if something spills or breaks, or this kind of stuff. We just want to know so that we can help you clean it up safely. Some chemicals, things need to be done to clean them up. Glassware can cut people. We want to make sure we get it all off the floor, stuff like this. And before classes, please don't congregate in the halls too much. There are people working on the first floor. Grading, the lab grade is 25% of the course grade. The lab reports are 40 points each. There's 11 labs, so that's 440 points. So you can get a 40, a 30, a 20, or a 15, and then this just outlines, how you can get those different things. But these are set scores, right? You can't get a 32 or something like that. So these are the only scores that you can get. Post-lab questions are 10 points each for 110 points total, and these are done before you leave the lab. So essentially you'll upload your lab report to Blackboard. This will unlock your post-lab questions, which are on Blackboard and are randomized, and then you will individually complete the post-lab questions. Now they are open book, but they do need to be completed individually. The other thing I should note is you need to complete all of this in the 3.5 hour time window. So you need to make sure you're well prepared for lab and know what you're doing so that you have plenty of time. If you prepare for lab by watching the videos, we'll send you videos every week, coming to office hours, stuff like this, it will be a much less stressful experience, and you'll have plenty of time to do all of these things. If you're rushing around trying to complete your post-lab questions, that can cause stress and anxiety, and we don't want that to happen to you. We will go over, I have another video that goes over what the lab report is, and if you already attended lab last week, you have already completed the first pre-lab. Maybe. All right, lecture quizzes. During the first 20 minutes of lab, you'll take a lecture quiz. Each week, I'll send you an announcement. It'll tell you which supported practice problems will be covered on that quiz. So for example, for the first one, there'll be 10 or 15 questions that could be on the quiz, and then you'll get 5 of those questions on the quiz. So that's basically how that works. So the first quiz will be on chapter 1, and we'll give you weekly announcements which really narrow down the focus of the quiz topics. If you're not sure how to do one of these problems, that's completely normal. Come to office hours and we're happy to help. All right. If you do have questions, please email us at chemlab@albany.edu, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. The TA's emails will be listed on Blackboard, and we will start office hours next week, so you'll be able to come on Zoom and ask questions for both the lecture and the lab to the TAs and the staff. We are really happy to help you. I can tell you, when I took general chemistry, I had lots of questions. So if you have questions, please come and ask us, and we're happy to help. Now what I'd like to do is just give you a quick tour of the Blackboard course. So we have the weekly schedule, so you can see which lab you're doing and which pre-lab you need to have written. So if you've already took the lab this week, you already wrote your experiment 1 pre-lab. If you have not already taken the lab this week, you want to click on the video right below this one, which will tell you how to write that pre-lab. It'll kind of give you the answers, but it's a good idea to go through that. You're going to have a quiz next week. It's going to be on all of chapter 1, and you don't have any homework due next week because the homework is due this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Again, note that you may not be watching this exactly when I recorded it, so use your judgment on what I'm saying based on when you're watching this video. Lecture, all right, I'm not going to talk about this too much, but you can get the link to the textbook, all right, which is basically right here. Okay, so this gives you a whole link to the textbook, and you can go ahead and read that, so you don't have to buy a textbook. That's really handy. All right, labs, you can find the course trial pack, so you're going to find the first 2 experiments. If you don't want to go get your stuff, you can get the first 2 experiments on here. If you missed the first week of lab, that's probably where you find a link to this video, and this explains what a lab report is. But also we have a video on completing your first pre-lab. Also in the labs, we have the lab syllabus. That's not a bad idea to read that. I just went over it a minute ago. We have the lab experiments. Okay, so you can look here for this first lab checklist. If you go to experiment 1, you can actually find the experiment 1 data analysis file. So that's right here. So you can get the mass of the flask and the mass of the residual salt, calculate the mass of the salt, find the average, the standard deviation, the relative standard deviation, and the percent error. You can also click here and then you can upload your lab submission. So this will basically allow you to upload your pre-lab and your post-lab. So your pre-lab is all the stuff from the pre-lab that you wrote the first week, and if you haven't already done that, watch the other video. Your post-lab is your conclusion and also your data analysis, which is just a completed Excel file. We strongly recommend you use Excel to do the calculations, because learning how to use Excel is a very useful skill. Again, in labs, we have the lab makeup policy. So if you miss a lab, this gives you a detailed outline of how to make it up. I'm not going to go over all of that, but it is there so that you can read it. It's not that long of a read, so if you miss a lab, please take the time to read this. All right, homework, you can find the different homeworks here. Okay, the homework is broken up into several different sections. This is acing general chemistry. That's just something I wrote to give you an idea of how to be successful in this course. Everyone can be successful in general chemistry, but it does take hard work. All right, chapter 1 vocabulary. So you get some vocabulary words. There's always vocabulary on the graded randomized homework. All right, you can have the supported and unsupported practice problems. So this is the questions only. You download this, it's a Word file. All right, it gives you a bunch of questions that you should know how to do from chapter 1. The supported practice problem questions and answers. This is worked out answers of all of those questions. The video playlist. This brings you to YouTube. Okay, and you can see a video for every single one of the questions that you would find on this questions only or questions and answers. It doesn't matter, but I go through how to do all of them. And then there's some extra practice, which are just unsupported practice problems. There's no video, there's no worked out answers, but at least you get the number answers, all right, at the end of the question set if you want some extra practice. Once you do all that stuff, then you go back into here, okay, and you can do the randomized online homework. You can go ahead and open this up. You get 5 attempts to do this. So the first one is always some matching thing for your vocabulary words. These are the same vocabulary words that I just showed you a few minutes ago, so you can pretty easily do this because you have them right there. Okay, and then it gives you a whole bunch of different questions in this format, and you can go through and do that. You can do this up to 5 times, and your best score out of the 5 attempts counts. So that is basically how you're going to do that, and you can do these for the different chapters. After that, okay, you will see this, which is the randomized homework equivalency table. So this is the randomized homework, and what I have is a video link for the question that's closest to it. All right, so for example, for question 6, question 7 of the supported practice problems, the supported homework question is the closest to question 6 of the randomized online homework, and here's a video where I solved that problem. So if you don't know how to do question 6, you can click this. It'll show you a similar problem so that you get an idea of how to do that. All right, and then there's a bunch of different ones for everything, and they all have these equivalence tables. All right, then you can get access to your grades here under My Grades. It'll tell you how your your number scores for everything that you've completed up to that point. So I appreciate you watching this video. I don't want to make it any longer than it already is. And if you missed the first day of lab, I hope you found this helpful. We look forward to working with you this semester.